Happy Spiritual Sunday to you all, and welcome to another lesson of Kabbalistic wisdom and technology that gives us the power to control our destiny. You know, I've been doing this, thank God, landed out for over 37 years now, and I think really the most powerful thing that the Kabbalah Center is teaching us, one, is the original, pure, authentic, and I know that word has been misused out there in these last few years, authentic Kabbalah. And just as a reminder, especially perhaps for some of you that are new, the center was technically started really at the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai 2,000 years ago, when Rabbi Shimon became the conduit, the channel. He didn't write. He became the conduit, if you will, in our terms. It was downloaded in and through him to be put in writing. Moses received the Zohar on Mount Sinai, because technically on Mount Sinai, the 5 books of Moses is like the body. Like when a child is born, we're born with a body, we see externally the physical material body, but we have a soul inside of us that has been already in the womb, if you will, basically creating the body which we came out with, chose the parents that we have, chose the zodiac sign, all those different things, but I don't want to go into, that story related with reincarnation. But there is a body and a soul. So on Mount Sinai, which we're going to talk about here towards the end, Moses received the body, let's call it, of the rules of the universe in a coded way, which is the 5 books of Moses, like our body. Don't they say don't judge a person, right? The book by its cover, meaning don't look at the person's external and say, oh, this is what they must be. Now that you see a big, hulking, sort of mean, grisly type person, they may be the sweetest, kindest, gentlest person in reality, but their appearance looks sort of the strong and the, kind of the mean, the gritty type person. And Moses received orally, if you will, the Zohar, which is the soul. And that's why it works for every human being on earth. It is the technology of the soul, not the religion, the body, the language, the culture. It is the technology of the soul, which is why it's universal. So Rabbi Shimon, at the time he put the Zohar in writing, in my book, he essentially, if you will, started the Kabbalah Center. Yes, it went through Rabbi Isaac Lurie the Ari, it went through the Baal Shem Tov, until it came in the 20th century, Rav Yehuda Ashlag, the greatest Kabbalist in the last 500 years, he formally began the Kabbalah Center, was the highest in consciousness person, Kabbalist, probably since the Ari, and the only person in history to take the entire Zohar, translating it from Aramaic into modern Hebrew with commentary, that people could start to understand not just the wisdom, but begin understanding how to live using more and more of the technology of our soul to make our lives better and ultimately to achieve what we're here for. Rav Ashlag had one true disciple, Rav Brandwein, who then carried on the work of the Kabbalah Center, who had one true disciple, Rav Berg, who carried on the mantle of the center, and then with the support of Karen Berg, created Kabbalah centers, the physical manifestation of the dream of Rav Ashlag, to bring this wisdom to every human being on earth, no matter what, color, race, religion, origin, language, whatever, because it is the technology of the soul. And so for me, having this technology gives me an ability when I can pause my reactivity, as we learn from Kabbalah 1, and look at the world, even through the chaos, I can see the order, because I understand the plan of creation. I understand the purpose of coming here and how we got here and what our responsibility and power is. And therefore, yes, it's painful to see the chaos in the world. It's painful to see the hatred and the violence and just the vitriol between people and the extreme divisiveness going on in the world, which is why for me it's essential, first and foremost, that we spread the Zohar around the world. Because I believe what Rabbi Shimon tells us Moses taught him. It's written in the Zohar. Only the book of the Zohar will take us out of pain, suffering, and death with mercy. Because only light removes darkness. And the Zohar, this book of the Zohar, is the most powerful vehicle, conduit, beacon of light from the endless world. And therefore will remove the clouds of darkness from the world around us, remove the clouds of darkness from our own eyes, and help every human being on earth to see the truth of the universe, that it is exactly to the most microscopic nanoparticle cause and effect. Nothing happens outside of cause and effect, which is uncomfortable to accept. But once we accept it and learn how to use the energy of our soul, it gives us the greatest power over our destiny. And so that's why we started Spiritual Sunday a number of years back, why the center is reaching out and has reached out since I started to millions of people whose lives have changed for the better, because we can understand. It's not always easy, but we understand the system. And therefore, just like your car, if something goes wrong with the car, it doesn't start in the morning, you don't throw away the car, you understand the system, so you know perhaps the battery died. You go, you fix the battery, now the car works. So the same thing, once we understand what we learn in the center in Kabbalah 1, from that point forward, anything that challenges us, anything that looks out of order, anything that appears not to be working, we have a ways and a means to repair it, to bring it back into the pure system that can bring us directly blessings, peace, serenity, all the good things in life that the Creator has already given us, that it's our job to manifest. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you for joining us from around the world. Let's get started with our affirmation. And the affirmation, for those of you who are newer, is simply to keep engraving deeper and deeper into our mind, and more importantly, into our heart, the truth of how the universe works, that we have control over the universe. So we say it together. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. And of course, that last part is the most difficult, because once our buttons are pushed, it's difficult to pause and send light to that person. But I've experienced myself, as I'm sure most of you have, that when you do that, your own negativity dissipates, greater peace of mind, serenity, clarity comes in, and therefore you move forward, closer to the Creator, closer to your 100%, closer to your mission, your goal, revealing 100% of your light and having 100% eternal blessings. Okay, so in the mid-1950s, my father started a business, a pharmacy, inside the building where there was also a grocery store. My father made this deal. He would take the pharmacy, part of the building would be the pharmacy, and the other part, Al Dor was the owner's name of the grocery store. He would just do groceries. And my father and Al Dor made a business agreement simply on a handshake. Because as my father taught me, your word is your bond. You give your word, that's it. No exceptions, no nothing. You must follow that word. And so that's how I grew up. Now, of course, since Kabbalah, as I'm going to share with you today, it's made more sense. Yes, up to the point I started in the center, it made sense, let's call it on an ethical, moral level. You give your word, you need to follow. With Kabbalah, I've come to understand, even as I'll share with you right now, where that came from. Because let's just go for it. So we actually, in the new cosmic year, as we've talked about in these last couple weeks, the month of Libra, we started the new cosmic year and we started to read the 5 books of Moses over again from the beginning. So yesterday we read the first few chapters of Genesis, the creation of the world. And essentially it says right in the beginning many times, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God said, set the planets in the heavens and this, that, and the other thing, create the world, move the waters of the world to leave dry ground, and it was. God spoke and things were made manifest. Things were created. Now, of course, you and I understand, especially if you've been learning in the center for any length of time, we are, as the Bible says, the image and likeness of God, which simply means we have the power to create. We've been given light, the light of God, the creative force inside our soul, and therefore we are the ones who create our world, and collectively we create, individually we create our own life, collectively we create what's going on in the world. Technically, from my point of view, everything I do, everything I say, manifests in my world. So I'm creating my world, you're creating your world, and collectively, all 8.5 billion of us are creating what you see in the world today, whether it's happiness, joy, peace, and harmony, or unfortunately, we see a lot of chaos, pain, suffering, and death. We are the creators of it. We use the power of creation the Creator put in us. So when it says, God said, and it was, then the same thing happens to you and I. In order for me to speak the words I'm sharing with you, I have to draw from the power of the light of God inside my soul to speak the words. And therefore, those words are made manifest. So I wanted to share with you a few examples or a few Kabbalistic teachings. Because sometimes, a lot of people say things, and like we come to understand, not everything manifests instantly. Some things take days, weeks, months, years, and in the biggest case, millennium. We're still looking to manifest peace on earth, heaven on earth, harmony among all people. This is our mission and our goal, the objective of coming here. We have not yet achieved it. So today is another way of understanding why we haven't and how we can decide today to change what we do, and in this case particularly what we say, the words we use in order to create a world of harmony and peace, starting with my own world, your own world, and then the world collectively. So, because sometimes people don't see the effect. They say words and they don't see the effect, therefore it's easier for that opponent, that original AI program of opposition, the one that wants us to take and get rather than share, to point out, oh, look, you did that great thing. Look what happened, nothing. Or maybe even worse, look, something bad even appeared to happen. So we don't always see, and therefore people don't always believe the power of their words. So let me start with, just came to me, I've shared it sometimes with people, maybe I've shared it with you. As my kids grew up, for me, the world up until whatever it was, 20 years ago, the word sick had a very bad connotation. Sick meant illness. Sick meant something was defective, went wrong, and therefore you had to fix it. So in my terms, the weight of consciousness collectively of the word sick is very, very heavy on the side of illness, ailment, bad. But as my kids were growing up, people tried to use the word sick to mean something good. So they'd write, oh, this is sick, 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 sick. And I kept talking to them and encouraged them, no, don't use that word. They say, but Abba, it means good, like something good. I said, yes, you're saying that now, but on the scales of human consciousness, it's like 3 tons, sick is bad, negative, illness, trouble, etc. And now you're adding 100 pounds to say it's good. So it may be a little less bad, but it's still thousands of pounds in the heaviness of bad. There's something called a vow. A vow. When a person says, and it doesn't mean like a person goes into court and they, whatever, promise or swear or make a vow on the Bible. They promise to tell the truth, etc. A vow is anything you say. If Joe and Mary are having a conversation and Joe says, hey, Mary, I'd like to take you out for coffee. Let's meet next Tuesday, 5 o'clock at the coffee shop. And Mary says, okay, let's meet next week, 5 o'clock at the coffee shop. They have created a vow. In essence, in simple terms, a promise to do. Now, as we said, because the words they said were empowered by the creative light of God in their soul, then they already set intentions. Like we say, consciousness is everything. So both of them set the consciousness to meet at that certain time, at that certain coffee shop. And therefore, their soul's energy, the creative energy of the Creator inside them, set up everything in the cosmos to empower them meeting at that time, at that place. So the cosmos has already prepared it. Energy has already been laid out, if you will, reserved and being used to make that happen. So if either one of them don't show up, they in essence have broken their vow. They have broken their word. So in the 1% physical material, you say, okay, too bad, whatever. They'll talk about it later or, whatever. On a spiritual level, what they don't realize is the energy that each of them used to make that vow gets locked up because it was specifically now by their consciousness and words, it was tuned in, or it was transformed, if you will, from being able to speak anything to be formed on a spiritual level, that energy, to get them to that coffee shop in that place at that time. And therefore, when they didn't use it for that, the energy just doesn't go anywhere else. The Kabbalists teach us it, in essence, gets locked up, so to speak, waiting, if you will, or at that point, it's already too late. It's locked up. And now each of them has less use of the creative power of the light of God in their soul. So therefore, they have less power to create or to manifest their 100% peace of the Garden of Eden, their 100% eternal bliss, because they've just locked up some of their energy. And so think about it. How many times do people say unthinkingly, sure, I'll meet you there, I'll do this, let's go do that, great idea, I'll give you a call next week. Even that, I'll give you a call next week, 5 o'clock, whatever. It's still the same thing. We're using our words. Our soul is specifically now tuned those words, that power, to make that thing happen. And if a person doesn't do it, that energy now is unavailable to them to be used for whatever else they could create or want to create. Now, there is a way. We do it collectively once a year, just before the Cosmic New Year, before the first day of Libra. It's called Hatarat Nedarim, the canceling of vows. Now, it can be done, it's a whole process, but it can be done the rest of the year, but at least once a year before the new year enters. Before that day, every human being is being judged, weighed, as we've talked about a few weeks back, on the scales of Libra, to decide their destiny, or at least the initial destiny of the year. We collectively for those who participate, we cancel those vows, which means what? Take that locked up energy, and if you will, break the lock, open it up the shell, and allow that energy now to be, let's say, returned to the person. So now they can use it for the next thing or whatever else they're going to create or want to create in their lives. So it's not that it stays that way forever. But now imagine people who don't understand the canceling of the vows and have never done the canceling of the vows, think how much of their soul's light is not accessible to them because they haven't realized how much they've locked up from their soul's light, how much they're missing out on accessing, and therefore how much that AI program got to get in there. Well, look, you did a really good thing. How come it's not happening? How come it didn't happen as good as you'd like it to? All those things, because they put less energy in it. You put 2 gallons of gas in your car, you can only go whatever, 20, 30, 40 miles. That's it. You can't expect to go hundreds of miles as you would on a full tank because you don't have access to any more than the 2 gallons. That's one. Then there's another one. Hope I don't push too many buttons. It's called, in the original Hebrew, Lashon Hara, evil speech, but we would generally call it gossip. Okay, gossip. How much harm is there in gossip? Few people standing around in the office and they're saying a few things about another person, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they're not out publishing it. It's not put in a gossip magazine or paper or whatever, but they're just speaking. No. Every word we speak makes use of, is empowered by the light of our soul. And so when a person uses it for negative speech, that's what they're creating. And so the Kabbalists teach us that gossip, which means saying things, even true, this is something that shocked me when I first learned it, even to say something true about a person, but saying it to other people in order that the other people think less of the person it's being spoken about, like hurting their reputation or hurting their social image or however you want to look at it, that is called evil or negative speech, gossip. So it doesn't have to be untrue. Lie is something else. Gossip is even saying the truth, but in a way that's to the detriment, to make the person's reputation less in the minds of the people that's being said to. So the Zohar, the Kabbalists say very simply, 3 people are being harmed every time gossip is spoken. The one who's speaking the gossip is being harmed because they're using their light of God, love, kindness, and compassion in a negative, hurtful way. The person who's listening to it is receiving and being harmed by that negative use of the light of God in the other person and the person it's being spoken about. And as I'll tell you this story here in a moment, but we'll see how insidious it is, how difficult it is to correct that. So the story goes basically that, making it sort of quick to the point. So a man was speaking bad. He thought he saw. The story goes that he works in a grocery store and he sees his spiritual leader, right, come in the morning when it's busy and take an apple out of the fruit section and walk past the cashier. So he looks, he says, oh my God, he's a holy man. How could he be doing that? So the next day, in the morning, about the same time, he calls a friend of his and said, I want you to see if you're seeing what I see. And they see the spiritual leader comes in, takes an apple, walks out. Yeah, I saw that. How could he do that? And one starts to mention to the other, and suddenly there's nobody attending this morning class of this spiritual leader. So finally, the Spiritual leader gets the idea of something going on, and he starts to investigate, and he finds out. It comes back to this guy, Joe. He says, Joe, what's the story? He says, well, what can I tell you? I saw you come in the morning, you took an apple. I couldn't believe you didn't pay for it. So I called my friend to see if he was seeing what I saw, and that was it. And eventually people saw. And the man looks at Joe and he says, you don't understand. I have a class in the morning, and you know how busy the store is. So I come in the night before, I pay for the apple, and that way I can just take the apple and walk out. Oh my God, how bad does Joe feel? He feels, like he's 3 inches tall. He wants to hide himself in the ground. He says, oh my God, what can I do to make up? What can I do to repent? How can I repair this? So the spiritual leader looks at him and he says, okay, I want you to go home, take your best, most expensive feather pillow, and in the afternoon, go up on your roof, cut the pillow open, and shake out all the feathers. So Joe thinks, okay, it's sacrificing, the money and the cost of the thing. So he goes, he does it, and he shakes out the pillow, and he comes back the next day, and he says, okay, I did that. Now what? Am I forgiven? And this spiritual leader, particularly being a Kabbalist, he looks at him and says, well, almost. He says, now, to truly be forgiven, I want you to go collect all those feathers. The idea being, when a person speaks gossip, you don't know where it goes, how fast it goes. So even when a person finds out, like Joe did, that it wasn't true what he saw, he was seeing something but didn't see the big picture. So he was judging on the small picture of things, not the big picture of things, and therefore, how could he make up for it? He'd have to go find out every person that he spoke to, who they spoke to, and who those people spoke to, and who those people spoke to. Like we say, the 6 degrees of separation, that we could reach everybody on earth. So what about in a negative way? 6 degrees, one person tells another, tells another, tells another. Pretty soon, you've got millions of people hearing that Lashon Hara, hearing that gossip. Virtually can't take it back. Virtually can't. So that's another thing that we need to be cautious about. How we use our words when we're speaking about other people, even when it's true. If you're saying it to somebody to tear down their reputation, then it's Lashon Hara, it's gossip, it's creating trouble, harm for 3 people. Don't do it. Don't say it. Just stop. Don't let the AI program inside you go, oh, but I got to tell this person. Because maybe they did something to you and you want to make everybody else think less of them. So you're going to go out and tell. Well, you know what they said? And it may be recorded. It may be exactly true what they said. Still detrimental to the speaker, to the listener, and to the one it's spoken about. Okay, so on the other side, like all light, light is only meant to do good. Like we all say in the physical world, and I keep reminding myself as I share it with you, that I've heard for 37 years, you walk into a dark room, only light will take away the darkness. So the point of the light is the power of sharing, the power of removing darkness, chaos, pain, suffering, awakening clarity, etc. But, as now we're talking about, can be used in a negative way. Think about even this. How many times have you, probably all of us have done it some point in our lives, but you're a little upset, a little stressed out, whatever it may be, and therefore a little sort of short-tempered, let's call it, and in front of people that you love and care for, because of your frustration or whatever, they say something, whatever happens, and you just let out that one word. Criticism, putting down, whatever it may be. And sort of metaphorically, as the word is already going out of your mouth, you already start to realize, OMG, oh my goodness, what did I do? And of course, it gets to the other person. And now, for that, let's call it 1 second that the word goes out, you could be making an effort for years to make up for that, if possible. Sometimes that one slip of the word can finish a relationship. God said, and it was. You and I say, and it becomes. So on the other side, we can use our soul's energy, the light, as light to take away darkness. We can use our words to inspire, to motivate, to enthuse. Also, well, let's use that. So like the famous speech or words of Martin Luther King, I have a dream. To inspire people that their dreams can come true, that what they can envision of a better world, of more peace and harmony and unity among people can take place. If it's in our imagination, the good things, it's because that's the truth of what the Creator has put inside of us. And now we're just sensing it, feeling it. So when you think that you have a true dream, not a wish, oh, I wish I won the lottery. I'm not sure that's a real dream, like a real aspiration, if you will. But something that you really feel in your heart and soul that you can do, you could become, you could change, whatever. It's because the Creator implanted a piece of its light in you, and that piece of light is of a frequency of that particular thing. Your job is to do what's necessary, make the effort to make it manifest. So when we have those dreams, then it's up to us to choose to make it real, follow it up with action. Like you do so many things. When you're really, really hungry and you say, oh, I'm so hungry, I've got to eat. You in essence have that dream, if you will, of eating, that inspiration. And then you go to the whatever, you go to the refrigerator, you go to the cabin, you make something to eat. So when he said, I have a dream, you and I always talk about, even our affirmation, I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings, regardless race, color, nationality, even regardless of the actions they've done. Maybe they are beings of light, like all of us, but they've done something nasty, like you and I do. You act with a little impatience. I act with a little bit of fear, a little jealousy. We all act with a little bit of negativity. I want compassion, love, and kindness from the universe. As it is truly exactly cause and effect, I have to give greater love, kindness, and compassion into the universe through the people that I didn't want to be more loving or more kind or more compassionate to. It's the way the system works. I want more of my 100%. I want to manifest my 100% lasting, eternal bliss, fulfillment, heaven on earth, nirvana, Garden of Eden. That's how I have to act. Follow with my words and my actions. Of course, then there's those that move us to also wake up and feel the pain of things that have gone on. And so my mind went, as I was preparing for this, it went right to, because I had to memorize it when I was, so it stuck there. The Gettysburg Address. A shame, even you think in simple terms, and please just let it be in simple terms if it means something else emotionally to you. But imagine, just here within America, brothers, families that were divided, quote unquote, north and south, that were fighting and killing each other. And so Abraham Lincoln was inspired and shared the Gettysburg Address. To wake us up in an attempt, as all of these great orations, to wake up to realize the detriment that we create to ourselves, to our world, to our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Pain and suffering. If we're not making the world better, we're making it worse. It's one or the other. There's no staying the same. No staying the same. What looks like staying the same is actually getting worse, because even the physical laws of science, entropy, even when you think things are just staying the same, they're falling apart, deteriorating. What you and I are learning here in the center is how to use the light and to use this soul technology to push the world forward, to push humanity forward more rapidly, more mercifully towards returning to the Garden of Eden, the manifestation of heaven on earth. And then there's, along those lines, there are many, many great storytellers. And again, the purpose of a story is what? To use our words, to use the power of words, to awaken, inspire, move emotionally, but towards ultimately doing something to transform, not to stay the same. Do something to make the world better. Do something realizing that there's nothing impossible. Nothing. So, two quick stories. One, there's a story from the Kabbalists from the, let's say, the 17th, 18th centuries. And the stories, even though people may not believe them, these stories were written as an account of things that did happen and did take place, so that you and I in our times would understand that there's nothing impossible. I mean, think about space travel. 1,000 years ago, you think people would have believed space travel is possible? Or cell phones, or airplanes, things like that. So we have to now move to the next level. And in many ways, we're being introduced to near-death experiences. People, in simple terms, coming back from the dead. So this is the story. It was a very poor man. He was in a bit of stress, anguish over his situation, not being able to make more, whatever it was, not being able to support his family, etc. And so, as many of these people would do, they go out into the forests near where they lived and talk to the Creator. And the story goes that this one man, he had, let's just call it, 3 rubles left, which was basically nothing. And he came across another man who was praying for people. And he says, well, you know what? Let me give this man, I give you 1 ruble if you'll pray for people here that they'll have a good life, peace, this and this, whatever. He gives the man the 1 ruble. And then he says, you know what? I only have 2 left. It's not a lot. What can I do? But I believe this man is a holy man, and that's why he showed up in front of me. I give you another ruble that you'll say the prayer, what's called the prayer for the dead. That I want to empower that you're helping those souls who have left the world, that they'll be able to move on or whatever. And he's looking at his 1 ruble. He says, okay. He says, and I want to give you another ruble, my last ruble. that you'll say the prayer for the dead for people who've never had anybody say that prayer for them. Okay, so the holy man moves on, and as the poor man now is walking back to his home, comes this very expensive looking carriage. And it comes right in front of him, and a very well-dressed man inside the carriage calls him over and he says, come. He says, you look like you need help, whatever it is. And he writes him a check for whatever, let's say 10,000 rubles. I mean, just an unimaginary amount. Thank you very much. The carriage goes on and the man's looking at the check and he sees it's drawn on the local bank. So of course he runs to the bank and he goes into the bank, he goes to the cashier, the teller, and he says, here, I want to cash this check. So the guy looks at the check, he says, just a minute. He walks into, the manager's office, comes back, he says, the manager wants to see you. So he says, the manager looks, says, where did you get this check? He says, well, I was in the forest and this carriage came by and the man asked me what I was doing. I told him what was going on and, I was at the end of my rope financially and he wrote me this check. He says, you saw the man who wrote this? He says, yes. He says, well, please look around in my office here and see all these pictures of people here. Point out which man is the one you saw. So the poor man looks around, he says, oh, see this picture here on your desk? This is the man. Wow. The bank manager looks at him and says, you sure that's the man? He says, yeah, of course, that's the man. I just saw him not long ago. He says, the bank manager says that was his father who died a few years ago. And so the poor man tells him the whole story. And he says, the manager says he never believed in praying, in anything, quote, quote, religious, whatever. And therefore, he was now awakened. One, that there's even possibility of a person coming back from the dead to do good and to awaken not only good for the poor man, but also for his son. To awaken that there are laws of the universe and there are things going on beyond his awareness. Okay. And then there's, I guess let's leave that one out. So, but now let's look at something more, let's say more direct right now. Again, the power of words. So it's great. We're talking about vows. We say we're going to do something. We talk about negative speech, like that. We talk about storytelling, whatever. But think about it this way. Another perspective, that the AI program inside our head doesn't make us really realize what we're doing. How many times do you hear stories of somebody who commits some very negative act, and then, when they're examining the person, they're looking into investigating the person, they find out, the person grew up in a family where the parents berated them or beat them or sexually abused them or whatever, and therefore that influenced them in such a way that they did whatever the negative act that they were caught doing. And it's almost like, in a certain level, it seems like, even though they'll still go to jail or, sometimes, almost like an excuse. Well, this child was told they're going to never make it. And so they became a thief so they'd be able to make money because they didn't believe they could do anything else. Or things along those lines. Or they were just trained what they thought was love, because parents are supposed to be loving. So if the parents beat them, then they just beat their kids, because that's what they thought love was about. That's what they thought parenting was. Things like that. But how many times have you and I, when you're brushing your teeth, putting on your makeup, combing your hair, whatever, and you look in the mirror and you take yourself to task? you use the power of the creative force of God in your soul to beat yourself up. Why did you do this? How could you do that? How could you be so stupid? Oh, so this, whatever. And it happens over and over and over again. And of course, the opponent in our head, the AI program, justifies it. We did say something not so nice. We were a little impatient. We did, make that foolish decision, whatever it was. I'm not denying or trying to tell you to deny that the physical things happened. You said that, you did that, whatever it is, even with the other person. So they said they did, something pushed your buttons, doesn't mean you have to make your life worse by reacting to them. No, we learn pause, share the light. So the same thing when it comes to ourselves. How many times do we use our own words on our own self to not build ourselves up, tear ourselves down? So I've always shared with my students, and I share it with you, when you do something that's transformational sharing, it's that uncomfortable act of being kind when you don't feel like being kind, shining the light of compassion when you don't feel like being compassionate, making the effort to be more generous when you don't feel like being generous, being more humble when you don't feel like being humble, but you're using the light of God inside you, shining it out in the vibrational frequency, let's call it, of greater love, greater compassion, greater humility, greater generosity, etc. And building yourself up. So when you do that, when you've made that effort, and you can honestly look in the mirror and say, you know what? I was feeling pretty resentful about that person, but I sent them a lot of light instead of send them resentful energy. I tell you, and I make an effort to do myself, pat yourself on the back. Good job, Chaim. Good job. You moved forward, because we're the only ones who live with us 24/7. We're the only ones who decide what our future is. So it's not an ego, pat yourself on the back. If you truly objectively made that effort, the uncomfortable effort of sharing light in a higher way through the darkness, through the feeling of the opposite energy, emotion, pat yourself on the back and keep going. Don't pat yourself on the back and they say, well, see, I've achieved, I'm there, I've already, arrived. No, keep going, keep going. Pat yourself on the back, keep going. If we don't cheerlead ourselves, how are we going to feel motivated and enthusiastic to get to the 100%? Don't look for other people to cheer you on. Because even at best, even the people who truly love us, they are not with us 24/7. They're not inside our head, inside, as they call it, our skin, to really say, okay, good job, good job. Good job, Chaim, keep going. Good job, that was amazing, and keep going. Yes, you and I want to make the effort to tell our children, our family, friends, associates, people at work even, good job, that was great, now let's go. What can we do next? So we have to do it to ourselves, because in the same way, a person, heaven forbid, using their words to criticize themselves, they're making themselves eventually not want to move forward. You cheerlead yourself. Every little thing you do, great, wonderful, do more. Great, wonderful, do more. You'll get to the finish line. You'll get to the 100%. So remember, we are all pure and perfect beings of light. Remind yourself, we are pure and perfect beings of light. So the world's in chaos, and I want us to understand the power of words. And this is something that's relatively recent in my awareness, and I want to share it because we're talking about the power of words. Look at the world, it's in chaos. And this may be uncomfortable for some of you. It may be a little challenging to accept. So I ask you, if you have a Kabbalah teacher, go talk to them, ask them. If you don't, either get one if you're on Kabbalah.com and you're taking the classes, or message me. And I'll be happy to explain it to you or answer whatever question you may have about it, because it is essential. Uncomfortable, but so powerful when we'll make use of it, because we truly feel it in our heart and soul and grasp it and want the world to move fast to heaven on earth, back to the Garden of Eden. If you're here, you're learning in the center, anybody who's in any way, shape, or form connected with the center, or just feels they're truly a spiritual person and looking to be on whatever spiritual path to make their lives better or the world better, all of us stood on Mount Sinai 3,400 years ago. And if you go look carefully, even in the coded aspect, the coded record called the 5 Books of Moses, in the book of Exodus, we all used the term. We were so united. We were really at the level, one unified soul, virtually at the end of the process. Let's call it 98% of the way. Love your neighbors yourself, back to the Garden of Eden, just before Adam and Eve, you and me, separated from the tree of life. That quote, sin of Adam and Eve. We were there. We were united. And we all said, in the original terms, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will hear. As we're talking about words, I want us to understand those words. We will do. The Creator came to us and said, okay, you're so united now, there is a vessel ready for immortality. Are you willing to accept responsibility for all the laws of the universe and to bring the light of immortality to all the world? And we said, yes, we will do, and then we'll hear, meaning, and then we'll understand all the details of how to do it. But we are now committed, like we called it a vow, but this is essentially an eternal vow till the end of pain, suffering, and death. We said we will do. And then, of course, we know the story. Some people came in with the help of that AI program and said, you know, Moses told us 40 days. We're calculating it's been 40 days. He's not here. We need another leader. And now people started to argue with each other, some friction, conflict, and ultimately we created the golden calf. We short-circuited the energy of immortality as we did in the Garden of Eden, disconnected from the tree of life, therefore continued death, pain, and suffering in the world. You look at the chaos of the world, and I truly believe, have certainty in my heart, that a lot of the chaos of the world is because all of us, virtually everyone on earth, committed ourselves with the words Na'aseh v'nishma to bring the infinite light of the Creator that's in our soul collectively into manifestation. And because we have in various degrees betrayed that vow, the world is in the state of chaos it is. Because we're not on a collective, unified level bringing light to the world, which is what we promised. And again, as I started today, the point of the center is not to change your religion. It is to change our perspective in life and our understanding of the technology of the soul, because the technology of the soul is the same for everyone. How we use it, as we talked even a little today, a person can use it for gossip or for building and inspiring, uplifting people, motivating people out of the negativity, out of the blame, sadness, victimization, etc., to realize their power. We have the power to remove all the pain, suffering, and death from the world. All we have to do is focus, letting the light of our soul out by attaching ourselves more and more, every word, thought, and action, attaching ourselves, reattaching ourselves to the tree of life, by shining light into the darkness. So you see people who are caught in the darkness doing various levels of bad actions, shine more light from your soul directly into their heart and soul, as we do when we meditate together each week on one of the 72 names. Reach into their heart and soul, take away the darkness, that is their sense of lack that the opponent in their head uses for them to attack in major or minor ways other people. Once a person feels fulfilled, understands that the fulfillment's inside them waiting to come out, and they let that fulfillment out, that light out, they'll have fulfillment. They don't need to blame anyone else for their lack. They don't need to blame anyone else for when they're feeling stressed or they're feeling uncomfortable or what have you. And the more of us do that, because we are on a one soul spiritual internet, the more of us do that, the faster we will draw all 8.5 billion pieces of ourselves to do the same thing. We just have to believe we have the power. And so today, let's agree, let's commit ourselves to speak to the soul of people. The soul, the God aspect, the God DNA in them, regardless of how they act on the outside. Let's awaken their soul as we're awakening ours at the same time, reminding them of their perfection as we remind ourselves of our perfection. Wake up the pure and perfect being of light inside them. And let's use our words to build and inspire ourselves and them. Speaking the words of love, encouragement. Speak the words that will create a greater sense of peace and harmony. The greater sense of appreciation, love and compassion. Awakening the true certainty that you and I and every person on earth, no matter what we've done this life or any past life in a negative way, in spite of that, the Garden of Eden tells us the tree of life in the midst of the garden, the Kabbalists teach us, means it doesn't matter how far away a person thinks they are. We have the power to access 24/7 that tree of life. So the more we'll use our words to build, to inspire ourselves and others, the faster we will connect fully to that tree of life, the faster we will all return to the Garden of Eden, and the faster peace on earth and the end of all pain, suffering, and death will exist. And we will live eternally in heaven, peace, harmony, that eternal Garden of Eden. God bless. Okay. Thank you for joining us today. Like I said, it's not easy maybe to accept everything, but again, listen again if you need to. Talk to somebody and ask them. But help, and I appreciate, and I know every week we do the same thing, but the faster we get these out here, those of you who are newer, investigate. This looks like a book, but actually it's a conduit of light from the endless world. It's like a spiritual optic fiber, right? Connected on one side to the endless world, the infinite light of perfection. On the other side, connected to our heart and soul, the heart and soul of every person on earth and this world. So the more of these we can spread, and that's why we need your help. We ask your assistance. The faster we can bring more of these to the world, and along the way, bringing more people to come to study with us, to understand the power of what looks like a book, but is actually the most powerful beacon of light in our universe, the faster we'll get rid of pain, suffering, and death. We'll get rid of the angel of death. We'll get rid of that opponent that lies to us and opposes our unity, love, compassion, opposes us re-entering the Garden of Eden. So this is why we always take these few moments just to bless our offering. And I put here in the box, maybe I didn't, okay, yes. So there's a link you can give. Let's just do the blessing together. the meditation, and then we'll have our meditation on one of the 72 names. So we just want to have gratitude, appreciation. Rav Ashlag teaches appreciation is the expanded vessel for greater blessings in our life. The expanded capacity to reveal more of our soul's pure and perfect light. More of the 100% the Creator put inside of us. So we have appreciation, gratitude. One, for learning through the center that we are all pure, perfect beings of light. We've all been infused with 100% of the light necessary to have eternal bliss. And through the teachings of the center, we have the ways and means to make it manifest and inspire and guide the rest of the world to do the same thing. Each one playing their own part, each one putting their piece of the 8.5 billion pieces of the one human being that came into this world, bringing them all back together. And so we inject this appreciation, this gratitude into our gift, into our offering that supports the center in speeding up the process of bringing people who want to come learn and spreading the Zohar that directly wakes up the light in the heart and soul of every human being. Enough of that awakening, the world will come to peace, unity, with mercy. And we know the effort we make to spread the Zohar and this wisdom of Kabbalah, the more blessings come back to us. The more light returns to dissipate our darkness, give us guidance, clarity, and strength to move forward on our path of light. And together we say, Amen. Okay. So I thought very appropriate. For those, most of you I think are familiar. This is one of what's called the 72 names of God, which you see part of it here. This is the chart, most of the chart. 72 names of God meaning 72 attributes. Each Hebrew letter has its own unique power. It's primordial. Nobody created them. They are primordial forms that channel particular frequency of the endless light of the Creator. So in this case, the combination Yud, Yud, Zayin, combined as a ability, a light force to push, if you will, the spiritual function button that's already inside of us of speaking the right words. So like we learned today, speaking the right words filled with light will reach into the heart and soul of the other person and awaken the light in them. So we want to be able to speak the right words, the light words, and nothing else. Yud, Yud, Zayin. So just look at the shapes, Yud, Yud, Zayin. Let them be engraved in your mind's eye. The names Yud, Yud, Zayin that we're going to use. So I ask you to sit comfortably in your chair, feet flat on the floor, hands in your lap. Taking a few deep breaths, breathing in through the nose. Hold the breath for a moment. Exhale through the mouth. Breathing in through the nose. Hold the breath for a moment that it fills every cell of your being, spiritually and physically. And exhale through the mouth, letting go of anything but pure light. Begin a more conscious realization that you are enveloped in the infinite light of God. this infinite light of unconditional love, unity, and oneness. Allowing yourself to relax into a greater sense of peace and serenity. Allowing yourself to be a greater, pure channel, conduit of light from the upper world through you into this world. And as we go back to just a normal pattern of breathing, envision above your head this name of God, Yud, Yud, Zayin, speaking the right words, the light words. See these 3 light particles above your head shining with a brilliant white light from the endless. Feel the vibration coming from them. The power, the support, the guidance to only speak words of the light, words of building, inspiring and encouraging, words that awaken the heart and soul of all people. And now we allow the Yud Yud Zayin, as it's shining, entering into the top of the head. Through the Keter, or some call it the crown chakra. Yud Yud Zayin. Let it empower our mind, our consciousness, to be tuned to the light of our soul, the voice of our soul inside of us. Overcoming the voice of the opponent. That we hear the words that guide, inspire, unify us, strengthen our ability of shining light into the darkness as it appears in our life. Let the Yud Yud Zayin now continue from head to toe, awakening the light in every cell, every spiritual and physical cell of our being, for perfect health and vitality. Removing blockages that have stopped the light from shining out of us. And let the Yud Yud Zayin settle in your heart and your soul. That your heart feels the oneness of humanity, feels the interconnection, that even though there's 8.5 billion bodies, there's one collective heart beating, one collective soul empowering us all. Yud Yud Zayin. And let that energy, a beam of light, of Yud Yud Zayin power, speaking the light words, beam it out from your heart and soul, through the heart and soul of all your family and friends, through all your acquaintances, out to all humanity, shining it out on this one soul internet that connects us all. And we see together the awakening of the greater awareness in every human being on earth, of the light of God inside them, the perfection that exists inside them. That they hear more clearly, more loudly in their own mind, consciousness, and their inner ear, their spiritual ears, the voice of their soul, that we are all pure and perfect beings of light, that each of us have the power to change the entire world with every word we speak of the light, every word empowered in a building, uplifting way to other people. That we all together see what looks like darkness, chaos, simply the hiding of the light of peace, love, and order. And the greater conscious awareness, as we shine the light out, Yud Yud Zayin. We remove those clouds of darkness, and we allow that pure infinite light of the Creator to be manifest, revealed in all its pure forms of blessings to every person on earth, drawing more and more people more quickly into this consciousness, speaking the light words. Brings back to each of us greater light, blessings, peace and fulfillment, and speeds up the awakening of all the world. That may it be in our time, now, the full removal of darkness, the full revelation of light, and the reunifying with love and compassion, peace and kindness, all humanity as one, in heaven on earth, returned to the Garden of Eden. Allow yourself to feel that peace, to see that in your mind's eye, that this feeling, this vision stays with us, each of us, forevermore, and becomes the only vision we have for the future, for now, to make manifest. All people in unity with all the blessings and all the fulfillment that the Creator has already given us. We see it, we feel it, we speak of it, and we make it become manifest with the power the Creator has given us to create this world. Together we take one more deep breath, anchoring it in heart, soul, and mind of all humanity. And as you exhale, slowly opening your eyes. Thank you for joining us. I thank you in advance for your support financially by giving to help us speed up the process. Also your support. Spread these videos. We're here on Facebook. There's a YouTube Spiritual Sunday channel. Just share it with your friends and family. Send it out into the spiritual internet, the physical internet also, and let those who are ready find it. Our job is just to share it out. Those who are ready will come. As they come into this unified field, they'll bring more people and more people. May we finish the end of all the chaos in our time. God bless. Have a great week. Look forward to seeing you again. Thank you for joining us. If you liked what you saw, click the subscribe button so you'll be notified of future videos as we post them. Would also love to hear your comments and questions, whether it's about this video in particular or about the wisdom of Kabbalah as we teach it in the Kabbalah Center. If you'd like to learn more about various subjects, go to our website, www.kabbalah.com. We have thousands of articles and classes on various subjects within the wisdom of Kabbalah. Share this video with other people. If you were inspired and it can change your life, let's start changing thousands and thousands of people's lives around the world also. If you'd like to contribute in support of Spiritual Sunday and the projects of the Kabbalah Center, that link is also below. I wish you an amazing day, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be out there. And may God bless us all that we awaken the light of the Creator, not only inside us to a higher level, but touching the heart and soul of every human being on earth with the light of the Creator.